The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
Hello and welcome back to the Icons of Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Timothy Kaitano, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a good show for you. Well, I always say this, ladies are taking over the real estate industry, right? And if you don't believe me, well, listen, this episode might just convince you, right? Today's guest is a luminary in the industry. She has been taking the industry by storm. And, I think she has the tools to help you grow in your real estate business. Not only that, if you might know her because she gave you the best service, right? She probably left you with a smile. And she is going to leave you with a smile again today. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Rebecca Lee. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Timothy. It's an honor to be on your podcast. I really enjoy following you and listening to all the other people you've interviewed. I always gather so much neat information from them.
Ooh, wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you. But you've been in the industry for such a long time. It's amazing. I'm always humbled to hear that, agents, no matter how long they've been in the industry, they're always willing to learn from other agents as well. And that always reminds me that we never stop learning. No matter how successful you can be, there's always something you can learn from someone else.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like how structures are built. If they don't have flexibility, and that goes for our minds as well, they break and we get outdated and we crumble.
Oh, wow, that is true. That is true. So yes, for those that don't know you, can you share your real estate story? How you got into real estate?
Yeah, so I got into real estate about 20 years ago in Las Vegas. I'm currently in the Pacific Northwest in the Portland and Vancouver, Washington area. But 20 years ago, prior to that, I was a mammal trainer at the Virginia Marine Science Museum. And like most real estate brokers, they've come into real estate as a transition. It's usually not someone's initial first career, but it's a great career to move into if someone has a job, they're not feeling fulfilled, they want more quasi freedom.
Yeah.
And more, potential for revenue where there's, no ceiling.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was my situation. I found myself as soon to be single mom, and I couldn't support my daughter on mammal trainer pay. So I had to come up with a new paradigm. So I saw the potential for great income for my family. And so I put myself through real estate school and started networking. So I do have a niche. My niche is developer representation. So you don't run across a lot of people with that. I do general real estate and a variety of other things and consulting. However, my niche was real estate. And something I could say, if someone's listening to this podcast and they're new to real estate, considering going into real estate, something I did that was really helpful is I shadowed when I first started. When I took all the tests and I was waiting for my license to come in, depending upon where you are in the nation, depends on if you can get your license real quickly or if it might be a couple of months out. In my case, it was months out because everybody was trying to get their real estate license back in 2000 and 2004 timeframe. Anyway, so I started shadowing. So I went and I checked out, commercial real estate. I found an office, a premier office, went in, I spoke with the principal broker, and I told them that I was wondering if I could shadow someone. So I shadowed someone and their assistant on, for a week in commercial real estate to kind of get a feel for that rhythm. And then I spoke and interviewed people in general real estate. And I just kind of started looking at all these different facets in real estate to try to figure out where I wanted to enter into and go all in. And so I ended up deciding on doing high rise. High rise was booming in Las Vegas. There were a lot of developments that were popping up, but it gave me a level of stability that I needed or really wanted for my daughter and I, because when you go into developer representation, typically you have like a draw, similar to a salary, except it gets paid back when the tower starts closings. So it was more of a kind of banker's hours, except you work weekends. And, when you do commercial real estate, you work Monday through Friday predominantly, more of a banker's hours. And then developer representation is kind of a hybrid. And then when you look at general real estate, you could be working any day of the week, all sorts of hours. So I settled on developer representation. Anyway, so I started there with one high rise, and then I quickly I learned all the different high rises in the town. So I just became a savant on that industry. And if you want to know the secret to wealth, it's, get a niche, figure out a niche and just lean into it and become the most knowledgeable in whatever that is. So I leaned into that niche, and within a year, I was one of the top performing brokers in new construction. And then I was approached by the MGM Resorts Corporation to apply, and was selected to be one of their 10 brokers to do the $3.5 billion asset collection at the $13 billion city center development on the Strip. And it just exploded from there. So that's how I got started. And then from there, there's lots of twists and turns. It's been an amazing journey. I did the city center development for 6 years, and till we got that building cash flowing. I got to go through the downturn in 2008 while there. And then in 2012, I went on and kind of just took a break for about 9 months. I went down to the Amazon and had a real paradigm shift. I realized I could live anywhere and do anything. What is that?
Yeah.
And it really threw me back on my heels. So when I came out of that, I had a startup that I did for a little bit, where for about 4 years, trying to create a hybrid platform similar to Amazon and eBay for the cannabis industry, because I'm really passionate about plant medicines and people living their best life. And at the same time, doing a little bit of consulting with developers here and there, some matchmaking on equity funding for people that might need some cash flow. Anyway, and then I started consulting developers and doing feasibility studies for high rises, since I had such a large background in high rise at that point. And so I consulted a developer on the Strip. I also helped a developer not doing high rise, but single family home up in Park City. And I lived in an Airstream for 6.5 years. Another cool thing about the real estate world is you can kind of make it your own.
Yeah.
And so I'd travel in my Airstream to wherever the development was. I'd be there for a month and a half or so, and then go down to Vegas and to Utah. And then I'd go see family in different states. And so I consulted. So long as I had internet, I could kind of keep that going. And then 4 years ago, I decided I wanted to move permanently to the Pacific Northwest, and threw down roots up here. And then after I moved here, I got a phone call from a previous exec from the MGM Resorts Corporation. And he said, "Hey, I got a good friend of mine who's building a tower up there." And that's exactly like my background is in luxury high rise. So I did the Mandarin Oriental in Las Vegas with residences, and he's building something similar up here. So I just found myself full circle back into my niche. And so now I'm the director of sales for the Kirkland Tower up here, and doing general real estate and consulting still.
Man, wow, that is impressive. Well, I mean, let me take a moment to speak to the audience right now. I said it at the beginning of this episode. Women are taking over this industry, man. It's amazing what you've been able to do. Like, I have so many questions right now. Like, where do I start? All right, we'll start off with the niche that you pursued. Can you tell us a bit more about that? I know a lot of people probably don't know about development representation and the importance of it. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Sure. So as a developer representative, you become an authority on their product type. So you can be new home sales as a developer representative. You can do high-rise sales as a developer representative. There's several different niches to go into. And basically what you do is you learn that product type, and then you learn all of your competition, so you know exactly what you track the market no matter what area of industry in real estate, what area you're focused in. Of course, you're going to track the competition and just what's happening in the overall health of the real estate market in general. However, when you're doing, say, high rise, you want to know all the amenities of the product types of each of the different offerings, et cetera. So you know exactly where you land. But your main role is matchmaking. So you'll have a client come in who's looking for, say, if it's a condo, a lock and go home, low maintenance, et cetera. And you're interviewing them at the same time they're interviewing you to see if this is a good fit, if it's a good match. So the way I approach sales is a little bit different. I'm not, you're not going to hear a canned close come out of me.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be a personal conversation. We're going to, get to know what's motivating that client, and then also what we have to offer where this might be a good fit. So my conversion ratio is 1 out of 40 leads. So those could be people who are coming looking for leasing, or they'd be looking to buy. Out of those 40 leads, I'll be able to get 10 appointments. Out of those 10 appointments, I close 1. So I have a very strong closing ratio. And I have trained other agents on different strategies that have made it so that I've had that great success rate. But as a developer representative, you're not just selling the product. It's also important that you know, like, what are the objectives of the developer, and selling in a way that keeps it in alignment with their needs, because you're not just there to sell a product. Like in the resale market, you have brokers where, in order to motivate buyers to buy, they drop prices. You can't necessarily do that with a development, because that developer has to answer to his bank, and they have to hit certain benchmarks in order to get further funding. And other things can be tied to this development as well. So you need to understand what the overall motivators are of the developer and what his needs are, and then sell to buyers that can understand that situation. Because you can't just come in and say, we need you to drop the prices. Here's our lowball offer. Yeah. That's not going to work so well.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot that's involved in doing developer representation, not just selling, but understanding what the developer's needs are. And then also I consult them on what's happening in the marketplace, what our tools are, what we can do to help increase sales. I help guide the marketing initiative. And so there's a lot of hats that you wear when you do developer representation.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, what additional education does one need to acquire to be a development representative? Is it just the same, or anyone just do it? Like, what additional education do you need to be a development representative?
It's a great question. Actually, in real estate in general, everybody gets it's a level playing field. So when you decide you want to go into a niche, there's probably not a class out there for it. There's it's all hands-on. So if somebody was going to want to go into a developer representation, what I would say is get to know all the competition first. Then you approach the developer and let them know, or the director of sales, or however they have it structured, that you're interested in selling their development. And you've been looking at the competition and you feel like, their strengths are this, et cetera, and this development's offering what these other ones aren't, and just really prove yourself that you know your marketplace. But that's about where the education is. And then there's personal development. So, whether it's taking sales classes, which I highly recommend if you can get classes on closing. There's a lot of top companies out there that offer lots of sales training. So I would recommend someone do that, so your further education. But when it comes to getting specific developer representation training, it's funny, I actually thought about building an intro course for agents who think that this would, or individuals who think they want to go into real estate, and have that be their focus.
I think you should. I think you definitely should. You should go for it. I think a lot of people would definitely hop on that. And I think it's something that can definitely help a lot of agents. I think, like what you said, you have to find a niche. And I think this is something that a lot of agents might actually want to do as well.
Yeah, I think that developer representation is a great avenue for those who would like to really know their product type inside and out. But if somebody wants more flexibility where they, aren't going to a specific office, of course, I work from home and or the office, so I've got a lot of flexibility, but I'm more mature in my career at this point. But if they're looking for stability, then developer representation is probably a great avenue to go in. I have a lot of brokers who ask me, who have been in the industry a long time, like, how did you get into this? Because I mean, I do everything, building the pro forma, studying the marketplace, setting the pricing, presenting the pricing with the developer to the bank, and having those discussions. So, and convincing the bank that we're going to be able to obtain these goals and objectives and what our timelines are. So there's a lot that goes into it in the more later years in your career as a developer representative. But as for just getting into it, you just get in, know your product type, and then you'll learn as you go.
Wow. Wow. It's amazing that you have been able to do so much. And looking from when you started, I mean, did you ever think you'd be here today? I mean, like from, you know, way at the point that you were at where you realize, hey, what I'm doing right now is not enough for me to take care of my family right now. I need something that's going to elevate me. Did you ever imagine that you would find yourself at this point in your life?
Never. When I bought my first house, I remember
Yeah.
looking at my former husband, and I looked at him, and after the broker left, and we were like,
Mm,
oh, hey, we've got our first house. And
mm.
then I looked at him and said, I would never want to do his job. I remember saying that, like, this guy
Yeah.
has the worst job ever, which is not true. There's something for him, but I
Yeah.
was in my early 20s, and I just thought being a real estate broker would be miserable. And here I
Yeah.
am, 20 years, 30 years later, but yeah, 20
Wow.
years in the industry. Isn't that
Oh,
funny?
well, I mean, it is. I mean, if you went from being like, well, I do not want to be that guy into being that guy and even more. But I think your story is motivating. I mean, as a single mom, I mean, what motivated you? How did you, get the strength to keep going and, growing in your career? I know that real estate can be quite demanding. It can take up a lot of your time. Sometimes it can deprive you of your time with, your loved ones. What kept you going all these years, and how do you stay motivated?
Well, initially, I found myself in a situation where real estate was going to be the right fit, the right
Mm,
income potential, and the stability with developer representation.
mm,
And I didn't have a choice. I also found that as I was going through a divorce, that my former husband was going to be going to prison. And
mm,
so he did. He was gone to prison until my daughter was 21 years old. And I had no other plan, so to speak, right? My
mm,
skills were mammal training, which doesn't pay much. You can't pay the rent on that.
mm,
And or really lean into real estate, so there was no safety net for me. It was a sink or swim situation. And so when it came to parenting, I did choose to live in a town that I drove into Vegas from. That's Boulder City. That was a real small town so that I could feel safe with my daughter leaving school and going out and about, versus I didn't want to raise her in Las Vegas. And so I commuted each day, a half hour each way, which gave me enough time to get into the mindset, enough time to decompress. As a lot of single moms or parents in general, they'll find themselves trying to figure out where that balance is. And so there is no one, recipe for it, but I was definitely motivated to make sure I knocked it out of the park.
oh. Did you ever get to a point in time where you like encountered a challenge and you were like, you know what? I don't think this is it. I don't think real estate is the one for me. Like, how did you navigate through the challenges that come with being a realtor?
So when 2008 hit,
Mm,
whenever my phone rang, and I had amazing, sophisticated clients, and their assets were falling. It was like I was everyone's counselor. As soon as you picked up the phone, one time I picked up the phone and the client was already crying. And it was very intense, but you make it through. Everything is cyclical. Real estate, life, there's ups and downs, and you can't bail on the downs because you know what's coming after that, and up. So you just have to ride it out, and you squirrel away a little bit so that when it's a down, you've got the reserves to be able to, wait it out until it's at the peak again. And hopefully you're building and doing some wealth building skills on the side, which is something that comes in time, through self-education. Our public education system does not teach us how to build wealth. So that's something you have to go out there and get an education on and figure out, where your resources are going to be able to get that education. So there were times when I wanted to bail. I stayed in real estate for 7 years straight, and then started doing some consulting. So then I took a step back. I was very exhausted in 2012 after having gone through all of those matriculations and the city center development with what happened in the economy, and then we got it cash flowing at the end. And so then I took a step back, and and I think that's healthy to take time to if you have the opportunity to assess what direction you're going and what you need to do to get to the next level. And sometimes that next level, it might not be a career change. It might be a paradigm shift, a perspective change. And there are some great trainers out there. If anyone's ever done like any Tony Robbins, Tom Ferry, et cetera, those different, Tony Robbins doesn't focus on real estate. Tom Ferry does. Mike Ferry, his son. So anyway, you can do a career shift in a mental shift without actually having to change careers sometimes. And sometimes you just need to go into a different niche in that industry. I've looked at going into commercial real estate. I've got an interest in that. It's longer timelines. So that's probably not necessarily my best fit, because I love the deal. I love things that move very quickly, and residential real estate transactions on average are about 30 to 45 days. And I like that churn. If you like something that's a little bit of a slower pace, more digging into the details, commercial real estate would be a great fit for someone. But back to your question, sometimes you take another path. So I went off and did some developer representation where I helped them with feasibility studies, or I helped them set up a development and communicate with the HOA and just like the preliminary construction stages before it goes into development, et cetera. So there's just all sorts of different ways you can find new niches in an area. But when you spend so much time gathering so much knowledge in a certain area, it can be quite valuable to stay in it in some capacity, because you already know so much. But I'm definitely not against someone doing a paradigm shift and taking on a whole new career challenge. I've done that, and it was a lot of fun. And then I just found myself back into real estate because it can be a lot of fun, and it's an area that I have a lot of background and knowledge in.
Wow. Now, I think if you're listening to this right now, take notes, man. One thing that I do want all our audience to know is that you can definitely do it. If Rebecca could do it, trust me, you can do it. I want to take this opportunity to also give a special shout out to the sponsors of today's episode, and that's the Icons of Real Estate Podcast Network. Right? So we are here to help you get started with your real estate podcasting dreams. Now, whatever they are, let us know and we'll help you get started. Now, my question to you, ladies and gentlemen out there, is if you were to start a real estate podcast, what would you call it? All right. You know what? Let's ask Rebecca. Rebecca, if you were to start a real estate podcast, what would you call it?
I would call it Paradigm Shift Real Estate.
Ooh, I like that. Paradigm shift.
Real estate does that. It can help people have a whole new life trajectory. It can help level people up financially. Usually, most often you hear it, this is a person's largest investment in their life will be their home that they purchase. Yeah. However, it is a springboard to wealth. 90% of the world's millionaires and billionaires got there through starting with real estate and or flat out just building a real estate portfolio. So that's why Paradigm Shift Real Estate, because it can help, level themselves up in other ways. It doesn't have to be your career, but it is definitely a tool to get you to a whole new paradigm.
Wow. I love it. I love it. That's amazing. That's amazing. So ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. That name is already taken. Like, you're going to have to comment down below with a different name. You're not going to use that one. All right. Now, just before we go, Rebecca, what is your advice to single moms out there that want to pursue real estate? One of the things I'm passionate about is sharing success stories that help build not just, mothers out there, but also men out there. But I'm even more passionate about, sharing information that helps single moms grow financially. Now, I want to find out what is your advice to them on how to pursue real estate. I right now, I think for a lot of people, it can be quite scary. With everything that's going on right now, people are like, hey, I don't know if this is something that you want to get into right now, with the NAR and with how, the market is right now. I don't think you'd want to get into it. But, you've proven that you can definitely find success in that. So what advice would you give to single moms that want to get into real estate?
I would say find a broker, start asking around, get out there, take the schooling, get the
Mm,
license. Just start taking action, and your vibe will attract your tribe. You
mhm.
will be successful if you continue to focus on it and you continue to work at it. You will find people who are looking to sell, who want to work with you, or buyers who
Yeah.
want to buy. It happens organically, but it happens through action. So it's not going to land in your lap. So you just have to ask yourself, am I someone who will take action and treat this like a job? And if you are, then go for it. I recommend people find someone to be mentored by or to get trained through. So if you're a developer representative, for example, you get training. If you are entering into general real estate, you don't have to commit to being a part of a team for your entire real estate career, but it is like getting the information on rails and safety nets to get on a team, and then they can teach you how to do the forms, how to overcome objections, how to source, all these different things that you're going to need to do, and that team will train you on it. So small price to pay. Anytime you get into something, there's always going to be your dues you pay on the front end. So with a team, you're going to give them part of your commission, but it is worth it. You are paying for your education from someone who's already done it.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys were taking notes. And just before we leave, I just want to find out, are there any exciting projects that you're working on that we should know?
I've got a couple of things going on. My next development is going to be the Ledges 51 up in
Mhm,
Vancouver. That's going to be released this next year. I'll be the director of sales and listing broker for that.
okay.
And which is a big deal because there's not a lot of new construction happening. So that's great news. And then I am also looking at building a website. Well, I already own the SEO,
Yeah.
and it's evalove.com. And what
Mhm.
that is, it's going to be a platform that I hope teaches the world, just looking at the word, that in order for us to evolve as a human species, we need to start approaching conflicts and negotiations and everything from a place of love, to equally understand from each direction what the objectives are, and to come together to find a holistic solution to every challenge that we can. So that's where the word came from. It's the word love, forward and backward. And so
Oh,
that's my next pet project, is writing a book about shifting our consciousness as a human
mm,
collective to finding the win-win and everything, so to
wow.
speak.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure you guys out there are also looking forward to it. Now, for those that do want to keep in touch and just, be able to, keep up with everything that you're currently working on, what's the best way to get in contact with
Well, you can always email me,
you?
of course, at
Yeah.
rebecca@evilove.com. And then you can follow me on Facebook, Rebecca Lee Broker,
Mhm.
and that is in Vancouver. You'll see me there. On LinkedIn, Rebecca Lee. And
Mhm.
on Instagram, it's Paradigm Shift Real Estate.
I like it. I like it. So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that. You're gonna have her details in the description, right? So, you know what? If you want to really, I would say, grow mentally and financially, man, give Rebecca a call. Trust me, you won't regret it. All right. And that's probably going to be one call that will definitely change your life. Her details are in the description, so please do reach out. On behalf of the Icons team and myself, thank you so much for being an amazing guest. Your story is inspiring and motivating. I think a lot of young women out there are definitely going to, take over the real estate industry. That's all I want. If there's a goal that I want in this world, I just want ladies out there to just, kill it and just make a killing in real estate. And thank you for being a role model of that. And I think, you being on this podcast will definitely change a lot of lives. So thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you for the opportunity. I wish everyone great abundance.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know this episode has definitely added value in your life. Please hit the like button and share this with a friend. Share this with your social circle because they will love you forever. Ladies and gentlemen, from your host, Timothy Kaitano, with the amazing Rebecca Lee. Please take care and we'll see you.